Good afternoon, everyone. We'll wait for 2 more minutes for our colleagues to join in, and then we will kick off. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I guess most of you would have been part of our previous sessions. As a part of the new segment which we have come up with, Evosys Live, which is one of the way where we would like to empower you for the next update. And this time it's for global and UK payroll for the 20C quarterly update. We are revamping our services and the name is also changed. So we are an application enhancement services. We want to help you to realize the true potential of Oracle Cloud Transformation, the investment which you have done on. As far as the rules goes in, it remains the same. If there are any questions, you can pop up or you can put forward into your chat window so that we can get that question and we can answer during the session. Considering the content which we have would not require more than, let's say, 45 minutes, we are also more than happy to open the mic during the session in case if you find there is some specific talk which you would like to have with the speaker, or if you like that particular feature, please give us a note that this is something which you like in a chat, or you may raise your hand so that I can unmute you so that we can have a proper conversation on that. We want to make sure that this session becomes interactive, so there will be some online polls which will be coming in between as we do early, and this is how we are going to conduct the session. As always, you are going to get the content in next 48 hours. So in case if you miss out something or if some points have been missed out, rest aware that you will receive the content with full details once the sessions are completed. This is Vikas Surani. I'm passionate about the digital transformation. That is something which is close to me, and I really like to interact with customers and try to provide the new things which are coming up into the new release. I'll be the host for you today, and along with me we have a speaker, Vishnu Priya, with whom I guess many of you would be talking, and who helps you to realize the value of your investment with regards to making your life easier. So that is something which we are here for. Agenda remains as usual like before. We'll be quickly checking with regards to the approach of Oracle updates, checking the analysis of regards to the new features of payroll, our capability, what we are bringing on table. We'll quickly jump on that part, followed by Q&A if there are any over and about to the session questions. The session remains, the approach remains same. We do the analysis, we do the planning, testing, and the launch part. For the today's session, we are going to do the analysis of the new features. What is that you should take away from the new release, and what is that you can have a quick win about. That is going to be the focus of the session. If there are any open questions or if there are any more details which have been required after the session, you are more than open to reach out to your project manager or the support consultants. Depending upon the services which you subscribe from us, you might or might not be getting the rest of the services, but we are open to discuss on that particular aspect and collaborate of any support required to make sure that we are able to give better value to you as a partnership. Just to give a housekeeping check, on the top of it, you'll be able to see the new feature. There would be a short details about that particular feature so that you know and understand quickly about what is that feature all about. You will get the business benefits or a snapshot that what is it all about. This has been loved by many of you, and we have been getting good appreciation about this particular section. And thank you. Please share your feedback continuously so that we can improvise the overall engagement. First, we go for the impact analysis, which says that if it is a low, it might not require let's say regression testing. That is something which you can pick up over here. If it's high, for sure it should be considered for the regression testing. There will be some opt-in features and there will be some default features which are coming from Oracle. So if it's no, it's already enabled, you don't need to do anything. If it is yes, then you have to opt in if you'd like to use that feature. There will be some features which would require configuration. So if it's a yes, it would require configuration. If it's no, it won't require let's say major configuration. Quick win, as I said, there are some specific items which have been loved and appreciated by many of our customers. You get to know that what are the quick wins features which you can embrace right away. So that is something which you put. If it's yes, we feel it's with the minimal effort from the both parties, we can go for it. If it's no, it may take some more time to embrace that particular feature, but in no way it means that that feature is not good. It's just to highlight that these are the quick wins. Many of the features which are not quick win could be also important for your business. So that is the disclaimer which I wanted to put forward. As usual, I wanted to make sure that what is the pulse of today's audience. So I'll launch one question for you, and I would appreciate if you can fill out the quick response to it and let us know whether this quarterly updates what you're getting, is it an overhead as far as your work is concerned, or do you really feel that Oracle is adding a value or Evosys is adding a value in general with regards to the quarterly update with the new features and embracing that particular aspect? We are living in an ever-changing world, so I'm sure there is everything, every quarter there is some new thing which comes up over here, but at least if you're able to get what is that you are feeling, then it would help us to understand how we can make it better going forward. I can see more than 55% voted. Appreciate if we can quickly wrap up this one so that at least we know that what is the pulse of today's audience and what do we think about this quarterly updates. I can see 70% of the poll now. I will close it and I will share for the group. We have a good audience today, and we have more than 70% feeling that it's a value addition, and there are 25% who feels it's an overhead. And we would like to know more about it. If there is any specific area which we can be of help, we would be more than happy to do that. And if you think there are some specific problems which are getting, we have a connect with the Oracle development in general, and there is an advisory board which sits at this level. If there is some specific item which you'd like to highlight, we are more than happy to take forward to the Oracle development team also, so that we are able to share what is the feedback which you are getting from you and pass it on to make sure that the perceived value is good. Thank you for the participation. With that, I will hide the poll. And now I will share the new features. So this is going to be taken by Vishnupriya. Before Vishnupriya takes on to this part, again, I'm repeating, if there are any features which you're liking whenever the presentation is going on, you may want to just say that particular thing into the chat, that this is something which you like. You are also open to raise your hand, so I can open the mic, and if there is a specific discussion which you require, we can do that. So the forum is open. If there is anything which you'd like to discuss or share with us, please feel free to do it, and let's have an interactive session today. Having said that, over to you, Vishnupriya, to take forward with regards to the new things which we can embrace together.
Thanks, Vikas. A wonderful afternoon to all of you. So today we will be looking at the payroll features. This would be a summation of global payroll enhancements, which is meaning enhancements applicable for any legislation. And then we would also look at UK specific features. So you wouldn't see a bifurcation in terms of calling that these would be global payroll and these are UK payroll, because the entire group of audience that we have are all from UK. So there won't be any bifurcation, and you would just look at the features as it is. So there are 23 features that's come up for payroll this time, out of which I would say 18 of them are quick wins. 5 are not a quick win, more so because a couple of them are for customers where we are doing a configuration at a new level. So element creation from scratch or a plan creation. So it's more of those scenarios, while a couple of them are features which are probably a wanted feature, but not something that we could configure immediately and have it for a use. So we would quickly go on to the quick wins, and I would suggest you also have a look at the rest of the features which we have marked as not a quick win. But then if you think that's benefit for you, for your business, then please do convey the same message to your project resources, so we actually enable them if that's required. So quickly moving on to the bifurcations. First, we would look at quick wins that are defaults, then the quick wins that are opt-ins. We would look at OTBI enhancements then, and then known issues or bugs in the new feature that's coming up. And the last section is the rest section, which are those 5 features which we would not be covering in the session, but then I would recommend you to have a read of that. So the first one is quick wins default, and the one without any configuration. Okay, so this is a feature which would basically help HR people more than the payroll department, but of course the enhancement is in the payroll section. So when you do a new hire or you add personal informations and you add certain employment informations when you make a new hire. So when you do that, there are certain sections in the personal information that has to be entered first before you assign a payroll to the employee. This is more so because we have to understand what is the legislation. So for example, you have to attach an address. You might be required to attach an address before you actually go ahead and assign a payroll, so that all your default calculation cards gets attached properly. So until now, what happened was, if you had assigned the payroll, then it was very difficult for a HR user to actually delete it and then go back and enter the required information. But now it's more easier, because you can click on add when you want to add the payroll frequency details. So this is from a HR perspective, and you're also allowed to delete that if you have forgotten to enter some mandatory information. So you will delete this, go back to that page where you have to enter the mandatory information, and then you come and enter the payroll details. So this is an ease of use from a HR perspective. The next one is setting an end date on element entries for especially loans. So for example, you might have various loans, car loans, housing loans, and variety of loans. Now, what happens is when we configure these loans, the system automatically does not end date the loan when the loan is completely repaid. So currently there would be configurations, minute custom configurations that we make, so that we stop the deductions once the entire amount is recovered. But going forward, we don't have to do this. So there's not going to be a custom logic required, and this would be handled through the seeded formula itself. So if you had noticed, when we have some loan elements, when we create elements, there are certain input values that are created by default. So two of them are, what is the total accrued deduction and what is the total owed. So using these two input values, the system now automatically would end date if total accrued deduction and total owed becomes equal. So this would ensure that there is no incorrect calculation because of any logic failure. So you don't have somebody who's getting deducted even after the loan is finished. Okay, and one small point of consideration that we have to do is, in case if this particular element which is end dated is processed in a retro pay, then we have to verify those retro pay results, and maybe we have to remove that end date just to pay that retro pay stuff. So but this is going to be a very rare scenario where usually we won't have a lot of retros happening on the loans. So this is that's why a quick win, where we don't have to configure anything, and you can just create a loan deduction element and then everything else happens automatically. Process results by person records or object-based records. Now this is, I think, a very important navigation that's now there in order to view errors or warnings. Okay, so from a person result, so all this while what was happening was you have to go through a process result in order to see what is the process name, what is the failure, and what is the error message, and then see for who is the error. Now you can do the reverse order as well, where you can go to the person results and also do a query on either process or reports or batch. So you can try to find information based on process. So basically, if you want to find results based on processes like payroll run or quick pay or prepayments, you can do that. Or if you want to find details of this person based on particular report, like your payment register report, so you can choose report. And a batch would be used when we are doing load absence batches, or any kind of loads that we do as a batch entry. So for all of that, you can use batch process. So basically now you can just click on the person result, look, either choose process, report, or batch, and then quickly view what is the error or the warning page. So it's more easier view here for you from the person results. The next one is copy payroll info during a mass legal employer change. So for some of you who would have attended the core HR enhancement, so there is an enhancement for mass legal employer change. So basically, when you have a lot of acquisitions or separations happening, you might want to move people as a group. You would have a lot of people to move from one legal employer to another. So now in 20C, we have an option to do a mass legal employer change. So when you do such mass legal employer change, you not only can transfer the person results, but you can also do the payroll details that you can transfer. So these are the certain payroll details that you can transfer, like the payroll relationships, personal payment methods, third-party payment methods. These are certain, including recurring element entries and calculation cards, so that there is no manual entry that you have to do. The only point that we have to consider is that the change is within the same LDG. Obviously, because when you move to a different LDG, your rules are different, your legislative rules becomes different. So this enhancement would be applicable only if you're doing a legal employer change within the same LDG. So in case if you have a group of people which has combination, so some people are moving within the LDG, but some people you have outside the LDG, you would still be able to do the mass legal employer change, but the only thing is the payroll information would not be copied. But if you have any override values as at the assignment level, for example, you have overridden the payroll name or something, so that would be applicable, but not the entire payroll information. The next one is also with respect to a legal employer change. So this is like when you do a legal employer change as a single legal employer change. So you have one person where you're moving from one legal entity to another. So that's a global transfer that you're doing. Now we can copy third-party payment methods and calculation cards. So third-party payment methods would be copied to the new legal entity only if those payment methods are valid for the new payroll also. So you all understand the relationship between payment method and payroll. So the payment method has to be valid for a payroll in order to be able to be attached to a person, right? So if this payment method is not valid for the target payroll, then you cannot obviously copy the third-party payment methods. But if they are valid, you can copy them. And this also is applicable for third-party person pays. At the calculation card level, all calculation cards that are at the payroll relationship level would be copied, as long as you are copying at least one of the components from them. And obviously the country's legislation determines what kind of calculation cards we have. So for UK specific, we have specific calculation cards that would be copied. Now, at the source payroll system, if you have associations created with respect to tax reporting unit and assignments, the same information would be copied when you do a transfer. So what it all means to you is that it is very simple now. When you do a global transfer, you don't have to worry about what would happen to the payroll details with respect to calculation cards. Should I have to create them again? Should I do the association again? So all of this is not required. You just have to click on the checkbox when you do this. So you say copy the element entries, copy the calculation cards. So this will all be done as long as it's valid even for the target entity. So the next one is a user experience enhancement. Now, we have a data exchange section, so where you would actually do data loads whenever you're using extracts or any kind of import export that you want to do. So in this data exchange, now you also have a payroll section. So it's more for ease of use. There is no other process-wise enhancement here. It is only the look and feel. So you can navigate to data exchange and access, submit a flow or view a flow. And the next one is the vice versa, where you can access the HCM data loader pages from checklist. So until now, what happened was, once you do a data load, you have to go to the data exchange place to see what is that data load, what happened to that data load, is it initiated, is it loaded, how much is complete and all that. But now you can see the same information from checklist. So as a payroll admin, because now Oracle is moving towards HDL rather than using PBLs, so you would now be using HDL more frequently. So then it is more important that you see this information all at one place. You don't have to navigate to multiple tasks. So that's the benefit of having the HDL page informations at the checklist page. So here you can click on further details to check what happened to that object. So is it imported successfully or loaded successfully? So all this is from the payroll checklist itself. Okay, this is with respect to the teacher's monthly contribution reconciliation file. So, all councils basically we generate this monthly contribution. It's a very important file for us. So now you can generate this file by just using one task. So like how you submit tasks. So you will just submit one flow, which would then generate this file for you. So that flow name is called as generate TPS monthly contribution reconciliation file. So once you run this file, the entire details of the file is there for you to have a reconciliation. There is no setup here that's required to do. All required balances for any additional pension payments or pensionable overtime are all already included. So this would actually help that you generate the report perfectly, and you don't spend a lot of time in getting this important information. So this information is already there in the system, so it's just a matter of pulling it up now. In continuation with the same feature, now let's say there is an error on the MCR file that you're generating. You can also see those details in the same. So if you had noticed, there is also a flow task which tells that you can see the error and warning report. So if at all there is an error while generating this file, you can immediately view the reports at the same place. So in case if you have the error, then this highlights immediately, so you can just fix it and then regenerate the file. The next one is the global transfer uptake for calculation cards. So this is a repetitive feature here, but more emphasized because it is more even applicable for a local transfer. So not just for global transfer. So even if you do a local transfer, you are able to select on the payroll detail selection. You can select what is the payroll and the TRU. So you would be able to select this so that once you select the payroll and TRU, this would transfer all the calculation cards related to that particular employee for that TRU. So the moment we update that this is going to be the TRU for the transferred record, the calculation cards, especially the statutory ones, would also get transferred. So this feature is basically repeated because once it speaks about as a global payroll, and the second time it is more specific to UK statutory deductions card. Yeah, so this is, I think, one of the nice to have feature because there are now more validations at the P11D process. So especially when you enter car informations, there are additional checks. So it's not that there were not checks before, but then the checks that we have right now is at an earlier stage. So when you make an entry of details of car information, that moment you have certain validations that are introduced. So for example, if the car was registered before so and so date, then you don't have to select the engine size or rotary engine. So these are basically legislative validations that you should have. So we have it at an earlier stage when there is an entry happening, rather than having this at the stage where we process the P11D and then it fires saying there is a validation failure. But we have to note a point that there are still further validations with respect to things like employee name against, there are certain character set prescribed by HMRC, right? So such validations are still at the archive level, but at the entry level, it is more with respect to car information. So the next one is enhancement, and I say this is also one of the required enhancement on the FPS submission file. So what is the enhancement here is that from now on you can restrict the levers from being included in the FPS file. So this would help you. So you can select and say I want to restrict the levers and I don't want to include them in the FPS file. This is one. The second enhancement is that when you roll back the FPS file for some reason, now there is an additional restriction that it won't let you, or it would rather not roll back the employees for whom it is succeeded successfully, provided you have run the FPS in live mode. So this is basically because you can't actually do 2 live FPS, right? So this would ensure that if you have run an FPS file in live mode and you have certain errors for some employees, not for the entire lot. Okay, so when you do a rollback, this does not roll back the people who have already cleared the FPS file, and because it's in the live mode. But if you do it in the test mode, obviously it will roll back everything. So this restriction is only if you have run it in the live mode. And apart from that, at the FPS, now you have various column. So there's a new column category that is added. I'm not sure if it is shown in this screenshot. There is a new column category. Okay, I don't see it here, but that column category would actually give you those error message clearly. If there is an error on a particular FPS file for a person, then it will give you that, there is more clear error message now as per Oracle, which would help us analyze why we have this error message.
Vishnupriya, there is a question, I guess, from John. First and foremost, what the point is saying that brilliant. I mean, there are a couple of let's say items which were really good in nature, and he is saying that why this was not introduced before, so that it can become life easier. And thank you for sharing your feedback, John. We appreciate this value, and we also put forward and try to make sure that the pursued value goes right to you and we are able to embrace as a business. The second question, Vishnupriya, what he has is about why would you not want to include levers in the FPS? That is the question.
Right. So sometimes what we have noticed is that, John, the levers calculations are something that they want to re-verify, or we had a recent case in one of our project where they actually wanted to hold that, because if you see the new FPS process has an enhancement that you can still submit certain files even if you don't have a prepayment. So the prepayment field is no more mandatory. So what happens in such scenarios is that there could be cases where you want to exclude the levers more because you wanted to re-verify something, and then you want to process them separately. So that could be one of the reasons why Oracle is allowing you to stop levers to be included in the FPS. And as I said, this is an option. It's not forced on you that you cannot include levers, obviously, because that's not is the legislative requirement. So it's an option that you can choose to do.
Yeah. If anyone would like to have any questions, or John, if you'd like to have any subsequent question on that, you may want to raise your hand. I can unmute you so we can have a conversation with speaker. Okay, I don't see yet. Okay. Thank you, Vishnupriya. You may please continue.
Thanks, Vikas. So moving on with the default ones with a minor configuration. So this is for pension automatic enrollment. So wherever we are using a pay process, you can now enter exceptions, especially for director or limited liability partnership. So you want to exclude somebody from the automatic enrollment process, you now have the control to do that. So you can, under the exclusions, you can choose them. So these are the additional exclusion reasons. So you say this is a director status applied or has limited liability partnership, so we don't want them to be part of the payee process. So this gives better control. You can choose who should be allowed to have a payee automatic process. Yeah, this is a nice feature with respect to pensions again, where you now have the ability to have different employer rates. So for example, as different legal employers, if you want to maintain rates at different for different groups of people, so then you have the eligibility now by just creating the calculation value definition at the legal employer level. So for business, what it means is that you can now bifurcate and say, for this legal employer, I want to have this LGPS rate, while for this legal employer, you want to have a different rate. So the control is there now at the employer level for the contributions. That brings us to an end of quick wins, which are default. Moving on to opt-ins. Yeah, I think this is another feature which most of us would have requested. I think I've got this request many a times from multiple customers, is can I have a view only version of the element entries? So basically, you might want to give this to your HR specialist, or maybe to some part within your payroll team where you want to view them, give them the view access, but actually don't want to edit. So until now, we were forced to do some kind of customizations, or probably you had to live with that. But now you can have a view only version of the element entries. So this basically then gives you a better control. So even probably within the payroll team, you don't want them, because if you see element entries, especially with the upcoming releases and all that, is all direct entry. So it all comes from a different source. So you have a source of that's basically from the calculation card or from the time card. So most of the entries are not directly entered here. So it has a link to another page. So we don't want people to handle that. So I think in one of our recent project, we saw that somebody had deleted the element entries after it was processed, and then it's difficult to debug who did what and why, and then you have a lot of retros. So you can avoid all this confusion if you rightly define who has the authority to actually make change on element entries and who has the authority to just view it. So there would be a minor kind of enabling in the sense of attaching that privilege, because most of us use custom roles. So you would have to add that privilege to your custom role so that you can enable this part. In continuation with the same view only option, you can also allow people to have person costing page in read only mode. So you all might know that there are various levels of costing that can be configured in Fusion. So there are 7 levels. One of them is person costing page, so which would basically used especially if you want to have a different kind of cost account for that particular person. So such information can be now given as a view access. So costing is something that shouldn't be modified by anybody and everybody. So usually it should be just one person from the payroll team who should handle this. So now you can control that by giving them a view access for the other payroll team members, and then one person has the authority to change, because this has a lot of link with the finance. Okay, this global search is something just for ease of use, but then it would be very beneficial for you, because when you search a person's name, you can now immediately see actions that you can do against that person. So this also includes not just payroll actions. Of course, it's added here as a new feature for payroll, because you can also do payroll actions if you have those particular roles with respect to payroll. So you just search for that person, and then you can choose. So this list of actions that you see would basically depend on what are the roles that you have, and if you're authorized to do that particular action for that person or not. Okay, task iterations page. I'm not sure how many of us are actually using this feature, but I thought to talk about this feature here, because I see a need where many of our customers would want to do this. So task iterations is basically something, for example, you have done different kinds of different payroll runs using relationship groups. So let's say you did 5 or 10 relationship groups, and you ran payrolls because you wanted to group and check them. But now you want to roll back all of them because you want to do a complete payroll as a whole. So you can use this submit another task iteration, okay, where you can say I want to roll back and iterate that particular process. So for different parameters. So here as an example, they've given you running a payment register report, okay, but then this could be like, as I said, it could be even for a rollback process. So you can say I want to roll back payroll relationship group A, rollback payroll relationship group B. So this would then run, and you can view the status of all these iterations in one page. So this would enhance you to run something repetitively, and the names of this are something that you can also configure through a small formula. So you can say you want to, if you want to say, for example, rollback, calculate payroll for for a relationship group called with job school job family or school workers. So and another one with another kind of let's say an admin job. So that's how you created your payroll relationship group. Now you can also name these tasks so that you can easily identify what task is complete and what is not. The only glitch here is that you won't be able to do any task level actions. So if at all there is an action that you can do is only at the page level. So let's say you have done everything, but then you want to roll back all at a once, you can't do that. You can do, but if you want to roll back just one of them here, that's not doable. So that's the only glitch you have. But I still feel this is a nice feature, more so because I've seen the need of rolling back stuffs in a huge chunk, and people keep repeatedly doing that submission of flows as a separate task. So instead we can use this particular task. So that brings us to the end of all quick wins. Before I move on to OTBI enhancements, there's just one there. I would like to see if we have any more questions, Vikas.
Thank you, Vishnupriya. But I guess we have answered all the questions which have been asked. To the audience, in case if there is any question from your end, or would you like to have a chat with the speaker for any clarification, or it could be also a sharing of knowledge which you'd like to do in this forum, you're more than happy to raise your hand so that I can unmute you. I don't see anything yet, Vishnupriya. We may want to continue and probably we can take Q&A after this.
Sure. So I'll move on to OTBI enhancement. So there is one enhancement here. So the OTBI active process dashboard. So the active process dashboard would actually show you all the flows that were submitted by the user who's logged in. So for example, if I log in and see this dashboard, it's going to show me what are all the flows that I have submitted. But apparently, when we work in a group, you might have multiple people doing it for different sections, and you want to be able to see even those values. So somebody has submitted a different payroll processes for one particular payroll group, and you as a payroll admin would want to see all of that. We can still do that, which would require certain configurations at Oracle Identity Manager. So it's not a very complicated configuration, but it's a time-consuming configuration. So this is not a quick win, but still, I wanted to talk about this because we did have certain questions on would we be able to see other persons, what flows they have submitted. So this is at the dashboard level. So that brings us to the end of OTBI enhancements. I would just take a few more minutes to talk about the known issues that we have in these features. So there is a known issue when we use data loader for uploading workers. So if you have automatic entries enabled, so for example, what do we mean by automatic entries is there could be certain elements that would be automatically created for an employee when the employee is hired in the system. So this could basically be for capturing certain kind of information to display in some reports or for some payroll calculations. Now what happens is when you are using worker HCM data loader, these employees who are hired through this process do not always get these automatic entries. And what they have noticed is that this issue occurs especially when the worker has got a lot of historic records. So you're trying to load a person who has a lot of historical changes, and then the system actually does not know at what stage it has to create the automatic element entry. So that's the problem that we have. And the workaround that Oracle suggests is that it is best if you're going to use HCM data loader, do not use historical records if you have automatic entries. If you do not have automatic entries, it's completely fine. And Oracle is proposing that there would be a future enhancement for this issue. The next one is, so this is a small bug. Now, you all know you can run post payroll processes of transfer to cash management, costing of payments, transfer to SLA by just giving consolidation group. So if you see, payroll is not a mandatory field there. Okay. But when you do the payment process like EFT, I'm sorry, I'm completely sorry. We cannot run these transfer to cash management, costing of payments and transfer without payroll. So with just the consolidation group, you cannot run. But whereas the EFT or direct deposit or check processes can be run only with the consolidation group. So without the payroll parameter. Now, what happens is, for example, let's say you have done make EFT payments without giving the payroll, and you just ran it with the consolidation group because you want to run it for a set of people and you want to report it that way. Okay. Now, when you try to do transfer to cash management or costing of payments or transfer to SLA, then these would not generate any results, because for these processes to complete, it is expecting payroll value for the previous processes. So this is a small thing. What Oracle development is doing is trying to enhance the three processes which are usually linked to other modules of Fusion, like cash management or finance, GL. So they're trying to enhance this by just enabling it to run only with consolidation group and without payroll. But for now, it is suggested if you're having, where I see most of our customers do have transfer to SLAs and costing of payments, so we would suggest you always run it with the payroll and not just with the consolidation group. This is a roll-up feature on third-party payment. So you can consolidate all your third-party payments using this process called third-party payment roll-up. But if you roll up payments and then do transfer to SLA, it is not generating any result. So this is the bug. So Oracle suggests, at least for now, do not consolidate third-party payments if you are going to do post processes. So there is no particular enhancement that Oracle is proposing to do, and so this is the only workaround we have. This is important. So if you see, we talked about the global search where you can see a lot of actions. You look for a person and then you can take up the activity that or the action you want to take. The only action that you cannot do there is of viewing the payslips. So using a global search, you cannot see the employee payslip. So to see the employee payslip, you should, as a professional user, you should go to the payslip quick action, which is there on the homepage. But the employee from a self-service, he would be able to see that. Okay, so it is only for the professional users, basically the payroll user here. And Oracle is proposing that they would fix this in update 21A. For the task iteration status, as I said, it's only a page level rollback that you can do. You can't do task level rollbacks. So Oracle is proposing that they would try to correct this in the future release. Of course, the release is not mentioned here. So that's the glitch that we already spoke about. So that brings us to the end of the session. Because do we have any questions to take, or could we just open the, I mean, if somebody's got raised a hand, could we just unmute them to ask questions?
Yeah, sure, Vishnupriya. Neither I see questions nor I see any hands raised. Yeah, I can see now some hands been raised. Thank you for that to make it more interactive. What I will do is I will unmute the user. Just give me a moment.
Sure.
We can see Vidya. Vidya, I will unmute yourself and you may have conversation with speaker. I guess you self-muted yourself. So what you have to do is you have to click on that mic, please. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Priya. Could you just repeat the part about the payment roll-ups, please?
Sure, Vidya. The third-party payment roll-up is a process where you can actually, so when we say roll-up, you can club all of them and generate a single file. So you can roll up all the third-party payments, okay? But when you do that, and then you do transfer to SLA, the transfer to SLA does not have any results in it. So if you're having a link where you have to do third-party payments and then you transfer these to as a GL, you do a transfer to SLA, then it is advised you don't do a roll-up. You don't run the process called third-party roll-up.
So how would the backs be processed and the third-party backs? Would that go in single lines then rather than rolling up?
Yeah, so looks like that is how it would be. If I can just see if there are more details on that. So this is for if you have cost cleared accounts and you want to do transfer payments to cash management or calculate costing of payments, then this is where it will not generate. So that's the only workaround. The only workaround mentioned is do not consolidate the third-party payments using this process. So it would just go as single lines.
Right. I think that's a major bug because we do use third-party payments and we roll it up. So I don't know how the backs is going to look like. But well, we'll see. We'll give it a go and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think we would have to look at this more when we have the instance upgraded with you.
Okay. Thank you, Priya.
Thanks.
Thank you, Vidya. I will lower your hand now. If there are any more questions, you may put into the chat window or you may raise your hand. We are more than happy to take the questions right now. I guess it's all cleared, Vishnupriya. We may move to the next section, please.
Great. So handing it over to you, Vikas.
Thank you, Vishnupriya. So we covered the analysis part, and I guess that has been known now that what is that you can go for it. Coming back to this part, there are some items which goes after that, which is about the planning and having a discussion with IT and business what to go for or go for it, and then doing the testing of it and launching. As I said, depending upon the service which you are having with Evosys, you may want to have a quick chat with the project manager or let's say the support consultant just to make sure that what value addition we can bring on the table. Now, as I said, we are revamping our services, and this has been Evosys next generation cloud managed services, which does not only talk about keeping the lights on, but we also want to provide a proactive services to you. One of the key initiatives which we have started with this is a development and investment into the value-based analytics. That is a measurement and monitoring tool for many of the aspects what you're doing in your system and in your business. It can be related with regards to the system utilization, how many of your HR users are actually using the system, and if the data is entered correctly or not, which also relate to the data quality. It can be also extended to many of the other aspects, like how many days are we taking to do the let's say payroll cycle. Are there any areas which we can improve and which you can reduce that particular angle? So these are the angle which you are referring, and we are bringing lot many new solutions on to make that happen. One of the key things which I wanted to talk about was about innovation. So there are a lot of innovations activity which you are doing in the backside while we are supporting you for many of the questions you have. One is with regards to the RPA, which is a robotic process automation, and there are a lot of use cases which you have created which makes your life easier. I would request Vishnupriya if you can share your let's say experience with regards to the RPA part, and if there are any specific use case which users should be aware of. Appreciate if you can share with the group.
Yes, sure, Vikas. So I can take a real example that we used for one of our customers. So there was an issue with annual leave accrual. So I think most of us would have faced this in one time or the other. And apparently, what happened was we had to run this process for almost an entire year because we had different kinds of eligibilities for employees. So based on the eligibilities, which are very dynamic, which could change even every day, the annual leave plan has to be attached as per that. So this was like running the process for 365 days. Now we can't schedule it because we want to do it all on the same day. So which means that we had to run this process manually with a different date every time for the entire year. So that's where we used RPA because it was more simpler, more faster, error-free, and the task, if we had done it manually, would have taken at least 8 to 10 hours, and a continuous effort of one resource doing a mundane activity. But now it was more easier, and then we could do parallel activities while we had the RPA running. Another example which I would like to quote here is that it's about creating element configurations where the elements that we had to configure for a particular user was too much, and replicating that to another configuration was instance was also difficult. So that's where we also used RPA. So it could be used at various levels. It could be at support, it could be at if you are expanding your business and you want to configure new stuffs, so you can reduce your effort, have error free entry, especially for any activities that are very repetitive.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vishnupriya, for sharing. And depending upon your journey, where you are with regards to embracing the latest technology like RPA, chatbot, digital voice assistant, you may also want to speak with us. We may also share some of our learnings, which could help to make your life easier, as well as it can help you to create a smoother processes rather than doing the manual activities. As you are aware that we have been merged with Mastech organization, and as a Mastech we also get a lot of let's say DevOps activity which we can do. Now, one of it is the UI path. That is one of the tool to do an RPA activity, which is robotic process automation. And now we are happy to share we are an elite partner into that, which is like say top 3 partner within the UK region. So that is one of the things which we have received today, and we are proud of it, and we want to bring that value back to you as a business. So we are more than happy to have a chat with you with regards to that. If there are anything, you may please touch base with the project manager. As we do before, it's a closing note. We in next 48 hours you will be able to get all the content which we are going to share, and the task scripts which have been requested of many of us, many of you, would be shared with you. There would be a feedback form which will be shared back to you, so that please appreciate if you can provide the response to it, so that we can improve the service. You may want to speak to your project manager for any additional items, or you may share email to business@Evosys Global. We are completing this version of the Evosys Live. This was an introductory part of exclusively for our managed service customers, and we are sitting today on this part. So this has been completed as far as series is concerned. We'll be continuing to do this operation and summarize the overall program, and we'll come back to you what is the next section on that for the upcoming quarter. So that is what we'll be coming back to you and letting you know that what is that we'll be doing into the next quarter. Before we end this session, what I would like to do is I just wanted a quick real feedback. How did you like this particular webinar, and do you think this kind of webinar really helps you and makes a difference in your day-to-day activity, and it helps you to understand that what are the features and how these features could be embraced? Appreciate if you can respond to that, so that we can improve on that part and help you to bring more value to you. Thank you. We can see good response. Appreciate. Thank you. We have more than 65% of the result. I will close it, and I guess we got 100% of us liking this one, and appreciate the value and your feedback on that part. The last one, just to make sure that how we can improve the service. If you found a best of the services, then either you can select 4 or 5. That is, we consider as a above average and good and above to the good level. And rest of them, if you find it okay kind of things, so you can go for 3. If you find below average, then you can opt for 1 or 2. So that is the way how we are rating ourselves and the content or the speaking part what we are providing. We want to provide you best customer experience. So these are some of the initiative which we are taking to make sure that we are able to provide right value on the table. Thank you so much. We are able to see 70% of the result. I will quickly share. It's good to see the yes is converting from 4 to 5, and we are able to provide right value back to you. Appreciate your time and thank you so much. With this, we'll end this particular webinar and the series of webinar for the quarterly update for this particular quarter. We'll be providing the latest update, what is upcoming to you, and you may want to stay tuned with us, and we will share the updates. Having said that, thank you so very much to everyone for joining and providing your time in this, let's say, tough times, staying at home and bringing more value to the business as well as to ourselves. Thank you and have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.